having us today, for putting this together. Give them a little applause. And thank you to all of you for coming to listen to us talk about stuff. So to give you a little bit of background, this kind of feeds in. I got my undergraduate degree in art history from Arizona State University. I took that and turned it into a master's degree from University of Washington in communication and digital media. And now I'm working on a master's in engineering. So those three things don't really go together. So how did I get from art history to data viz to engineering? Well, I connected the dots. Art history is basically a comprehensive history of visual communication, right? And so then I took that into digital communication, and I got really interested in using data visualization as a communicative device to tell stories to the general population. Again. Oh, okay. Gotta go down here. I don't know what's happening again. Right? Okay, that's fine. So if I change this,
You click on this one.
yeah, it's not.
Keyboard, the arrow keys work.
I'm so mad right now.
I think
Bottom left.
you hit play.
Yeah. Oh, is it not? I thought we already did that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when you go to the movies and you're in the front row and you're like,
I know, right?
what's happening right now?
How do I now get to my screen? There we go. Okay. Back in business again. Okay. Woo! Woo! And so I've been doing data visualization now for, I want to say, almost like 5 years. Jesus, I'm old. And like I said, it all started at University of Washington. There I launched a data-driven column called Databased, where I talked about technology data and how stories about how tech was influencing people's lives, but also like some fun shit, like where to do fun things in Seattle during the summer. Used emojis as the map markers. It was a super fun, sexy time. And then after that, I went on to become NBC Universal's National Digital Team first ever data visualization developer. And so that is where I really, really got into stories with data viz. Oh crap, I got off track. Whatever, that's where I got super into data viz and to do a bunch of editorial stuff, which is totally different from anything else that happens with analytics. And after NBC, I got poached by Tableau. So I worked for Tableau for about a year. It was awesome, they're great. Even though I'm not doing 2D data viz so much anymore, they still rule. So basically, I fucking love data. Okay, sorry, I swear a lot. Like you might say that data rules everything around me. Dream, get the numbers, got a Visceral, it's fine. We take anything. But like really, really love data, y'all. That's on my arm. And so I'm here to say that data visceralization is the new black. When I left NBC, where I created countless visualizations, public consumption about a ton of topics, some lighthearted, some not so lighthearted, heroin addiction, mass shootings, visualizations that exposed corruption government, brought new information to light about nuclear toxicity. Paired with their textual counterparts, were meant to elicit empathy and further people's understanding of the story. But I'm not sure if any of them achieved that goal, or even really landed or resonated with the general population. I walked away with one major concern, and this concern has stayed with me and dominates my thought process, and that is the huge disconnect that has occurred between us and our data. Because data is human, and visualizations are a visualization of humanity. So how do we move the needle on this? How can we work towards emotional data literacy and get people to see the humanity that exists behind the rows in the spreadsheet? Follow-up question. How can someone see themselves, let alone others, in a two-dimensional representation of a daunting amount of data that they may not know how to navigate or even interpret? Did you know only 60% of Americans know how to read a scatter plot? Right? Let that sink in for a minute. And so, this influx of charts and graphs in media, in news, that are being consumed by the general population, they often don't even know what the fuck they're looking at. And let me preface the following statement with this. It's because of my love for data, my passion for using it to impart knowledge and understanding, my obsession with communicating interesting findings, and getting non-data people excited about data, that I say, it's time for a major shift away from the Cartesian coordinate system, because let's face it, database hasn't really changed since it was invented in the 1600s. It's time to say goodbye. We need to rethink how we visualize data. It's time for us to part ways with charts and graphs and shit. Obviously not tomorrow, but it's coming. Charts and graphs and shit. And I mean, yeah, we have come a long way, and we've come up with new charts and graphs and shit, but most of them could easily be interpreted using a bar chart, a line graph, or a scatter plot. Pretty much every chart you see could be boiled down to one of those three charts. And yeah, when we moved from the page to the screen, we got interactivity and that added value, giving people the opportunity to see data in context and discover new, previously hidden information through tooltips and filtering and, these technological advances that were not possible before. But that's really about it. At their respective cores, there's no real difference between the two. Even though that invisible information is available, even though the opportunity to explore larger data sets is provided, it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to extract the insights they're meant to. In fact, people most often get lost in that data. So what do we do then? Jamming old models into new platforms just isn't gonna work. We have seen it happen with moving from desktop to mobile, right? Who here has heard the statement mobile first? Mobile first, right? And how many of you have done things and built them for desktop and then jammed those into mobile? Right? Me too. It's okay. It's okay. And that's really just not going to work with where we're going. We say no to 3D charts now. They have no place in augmented, virtual, or mixed reality at all. There's no added value in walking around a 3D bar chart that's twice your size. In fact, that actually distorts the data, right? What we learned from 3D charts is that it makes the data not true, basically. And that carries over. And the new problem though, when we move into new technologies and future realities is, right now we have 2D representations of data on two-dimensional surfaces. I don't want to see any holograms of a fucking computer screen that has a line graph on it. Like, again, where is the value? And that is the key thing, is adding value. So, we need to start from scratch. We need new models that add new value. The question is, how can we engineer a future that bridges this data disconnect created by current models and adds new value? We are poised to bring data off the screen and into the physical world. We are being provided with the opportunity to impact people's understanding of data in a meaningful, visceral way. That is a game changer. And even though through data visceralization, we can experience data, we can feel statistics. It opens our eyes to the humanity behind them, which adds some much needed emotional value, if I may, emotional performance indicators, APIs. And that gets people invested in data like it never has before. So again, so it also affords us a chance to create more surprising, engaging, and stimulating experiences, and representations of information that don't solely rely on sight or sound, but on multiple senses working together to stimulate our feelings as well as our thoughts. Because we're numb, and we need to counteract the numbness to numbers that we seem to have arrived at. And the flippancy with which we refer to statistics. Statistics are the most important part of data. They are the pieces of information that professionals, people that know how to read data and interpret their messages, extract and give to people that don't have those capabilities. I love statistics. They're great. People understand them. But when people hear statistics, you know, basically the statement is, oh, it's just another statistic. So that also needs to change. But we have to build a framework. What does this data visceralization look like, right? And basically we just need to start experimenting now. And we are, myself among many others, are experimenting with how to visceralize data. One of the amazing people that I know that's doing this is Mona Chalabi. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her at all. She's fucking kick-ass. Like, so kick-ass. And she launched a data visceralization in Hong Kong. And it was geared towards blind people and also vision impaired people. So it was primarily audio, but also there was braille involved on it, and so you could touch the data and understand it through that way. So that's something that is new, because when you don't know who she is, you should really look her up. She does these really killer charts that illustrate really important data in a way that's also really easily digestible. And she kind of got some pushback about what she was doing, saying, what are you doing for accessibility? You're doing all of these things, but what about people that can't see, can't access Instagram? And that got her thinking about other pieces of accessibility, which is great. In addition to her, anybody see this Ice Watch thing that was happening in the United Kingdom? So there was a summit there on climate change, and this artist brought in these giant blocks of glacier, and they just sat there, and they melted over time, over a long period of time, but they melted, and people were touching them and watching them and seeing this disintegration in person, and that is also really powerful. And just a little caveat, yeah, data art, let me make something very clear. The difference between data visceralization and data art is that data visceralization is rooted in data and statistics that are trustworthy, that are known, that I could defend until the end. Data art, more, pulling in a Twitter feed and saying, this is the sentiment of what's happening right now, and I'm like, what's your model? What did you use to, decide what sentiment was what? Let's talk about it. And generally that's not the case. So with that, I would actually like to show you some documentation of data visualizations that I make. So here we go. Here's my situation. Oh god damn it, we're gonna go through this again.
Video?
Come on. No, it's gonna be though. Okay, I'm just gonna go to my website really quick. Post on GitHub is free. And so this installation was site specific, but I created it with the idea that it could be used in partnership with a journalistic article. It could be, the way that I see it is having these black boxes placed all over the city where people have this experience of this statistic. And that statistic is that every 2 minutes in our country, another person is sexually assaulted. Every 2 minutes. During the time I've been talking, like 10 people. And that's insane. And we hear that statistic and it doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't really resonate until you pay attention to it like that. And then I paired that statistic with qualitative data from the medical community. And that is that sexual assault survivors often say they couldn't move, that they were paralyzed, right? And it turns out that physiologically, that actually is happening. As a last-ditch effort to survive, our bodies play dead. We have no control over that. Our heart rate slows to an incredibly low level, limiting blood flow and mobility. And that's like an amazing revelation in so many different ways. And so with those two pieces of information in mind, I'm just gonna show you this. Basically, people went in and they were told this national statistic. They went into a dark room by themselves. They had red nested circles pulsating from above, both sides, and behind them, pulsating at 30 beats per minute with the sound of a heartbeat. They're told to look forward, not to move. And they're in there for 2 minutes. So, I'm just gonna, this is like a small semblance of what it's like. There's a spelling error, don't judge me. Is there audio? Is that gonna, oh no.
I'm not sure.
Not really.
It could maybe come through.
Is it mine?
So we're going battery.
Yeah. Always on battery.
Can you just press the space bar?
Design room, right?
Yeah.
That's where we are.
No, it's not.
No. Is this one the other one? Is it this? Is it this one maybe?
No, it's not that one.
No. All right. Well,
I don't know if it's not up there, but
just
it just come out of your laptop.
yeah. It just won't be very loud. You guys kind of hear that heartbeat? So, sorry for the topic here, but that resonates so much more than seeing a bubble chart on a screen. No matter the interactivity, if people are not interested in the topic, they're not going to explore it. And through data visualization, we can combat that and bridge the gap between data and ourselves.
Thank you, Sai. That was actually like a pretty good use of this room too, because they use
Yeah.
the media room. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
A couple things. So, what kind of advice do you have for almost like early stage startup where it's like you have like a limited set of data.
Sure.
So is the goal to maybe find some sort of like some sort of points that we can start getting this sort of data, or would you recommend seeing what we already have and start analyzing that?
I think that one of the best things that startups and like I love marketing. That's what my first master's was in, marketing success. And there's a lot of experiential marketing going on right now, like the 29 rooms thing.
Right.
And then you have agencies like Hush. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them. They're amazing. And they visualize internal data for their employees. So rather than having a quarterly report or an annual report, they create these beautiful moving entities that show their employees that data. They also worked with Instagram, and Instagram's like main lobby at their like main headquarters or whatever. There are these like beautiful like tubes that change color, and so it doesn't all have to be like that. You can find little ways with current technology. Like this was done with a projector. It's not projection mapping. If anybody just calls projection mapping, I'll lose it. And so you can use like simple existing technologies to explore it and see what fits